Hey everyone, back at it again with another cosplay. This time I'm recreating a look from the school dance scene in Jennifer's Body. If you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it. Megan Fox plays Jennifer and Adam Brody tries to sacrifice her to the devil so his emo band can be successful. That's really all you need to know. So this is a maybe wedding dress I got at Buffalo Exchange. I'm not sure if they have Buffalo Exchange everywhere, but in New York, that's where we go to sell our old clothes and make $20 and then recycle that $20 into a Halloween costume. You can see that I am pinning some ribbon and trim to this to make it look like the dress from the movie. I got the trim on Amazon and I got the ribbon at one of those stores in the Fashion District in New York City. I think that these also probably exist in LA or any other big metropolitan areas, but if you don't have a store like that, you can also order the ribbon on Amazon or go to Joann's or any store. It's pretty easy to find ribbon. Okay, time to take it to the sewing machine. So my sewing machine is really old. I've had it since high school, and the needles on it have not really been changed. I think I've had 2 needles since high school. So you'll see in a second that I break one of my needles on one of the pins in this. This is really bad practice. You should always pull your pins out before the sewing needle gets to it because this could happen, especially if you're using pins that have really hard little heads on them. So yeah, don't do that. This actually also could have happened because I'm sewing over some sequins and beads that were on this dress that I thought were just really ugly and also not part of what Jennifer's dress looked like. So it's possible that one of the needles got stuck inside of a bead. So yeah, just be careful when you're doing that. And this is a good time for me to tell you that I also spent 2 painstaking hours taking appliques off of this dress before I shot this video. Okay, now I'm going to show you one of my favorite tricks in the world. I think I learned this back when I was making cheerleading bows for my squad in maybe middle school. The trick here is that this ribbon is either satin or silk, and because of that, it melts really easily. And you don't want frayed ends on your ribbons because then it just looks messy. So you can see, obviously, I am melting the end of the ribbon so that it seals it off and you don't have to hem it and it won't fray and it's just gonna look really nice and clean. On to more trim. So this part was a little bit trickier because this dress has multiple layers. You can see I slid my hand under the top layer so that I didn't have to sew through both. If I had sewed through both layers on this, A, it would have made it really bulky and weird, and B, I would have had to be really careful about matching up the inside layer to the outside layer. It would have just created a lot of wrinkles if those were attached. So if you have an outer layer on the dress that you're modifying, just make sure that you only pin and sew to the outer layer and leave the lining free so that it can wiggle around and not be attached to the outside. Another little tip here that seems kind of obvious, but I'm going to say it anyways, is that when the 2 ends of the trim meet, you don't want them to be frayed either. It's kind of the same principle with the ribbon, but you can't melt the end of that, and you also don't want a hard piece of plastic on the edge. So here is where you would flip it under like you're hemming it and then sew vertically down the side. So then it's just a nice, clean edge and it meets together. Now you can see I learned my lesson and started pulling the pins out before the needle got to them. I only had this one needle left, so if I broke it again, I was going to be in real trouble. Okay, that's enough voiceover for this section. Please enjoy a montage of me sewing from different angles. Whoa, a bowl. What is this for, you might ask? In the movie, Jennifer gets in a fight with her best friend Needy, and they end up in like a public pool, and there's a lot of water involved and obviously blood and some puke. But anyways, I wanted to try to recreate the wet look of that, so I used this recipe for wet blood that I got when I was working for a haunted house in college, and it's really easy. You kind of just trial and error the quantities of these things that I'm pouring into this bowl, and one of the really cool things about this is that it's edible, and if you can't eat peanuts, I think you could probably use almond butter for this. But yeah, it was really important to me that the blood dried and looked shiny and looked wet for this. I played around a lot with the quantities of red versus blue in this. You don't want it to be purple, but you don't want it to be bright red. You want it to just look like, God, this has gotten to a really dark place. You want it to look like real blood. Okay, so now I'm just doing some finishing touches, smearing the blood on, putting some black like pigment on the bottom to make it look really dirty. Something else that I did was I kind of doused myself in KY jelly because it doesn't dry, so you can kind of drench your hair in it and it'll look like you just came out of a pool for like 4 hours and it doesn't dry, so perfect for a haunted house or a Halloween party. This is a water-activated Ben Nye pigment. It's a makeup, but if you don't have this, you absolutely do not have to use it. You could literally roll your dress around in the mud and it would probably turn out better than this. The important thing is just that your dress looks really beat up and that you use things that you already have. Just don't spend a lot of money on it because you're probably gonna throw this dress away anyways. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. Time for a photo montage.